I think genocide is a very emotional, non-scientific word.
Listen to this.
Some of these countries.
Oh, I hate these people so much. I hate these people.
I want you to meet Destiny.
No, NasDaily. No. Don't bring your girlfriend near Destiny. No. But yeah, he really has some bangers in this. So let's get into it.
Service as a contractor, and then they go and do whatever they want. And I think that's a great future, to be honest.
Can I come back to where you started? You said that you saw in your whole life people pulled apart, given the region you were born in, the fact that you are Israeli-Palestinian. You are bridging two sides of a very bitter divide. I noticed in one of your videos you talked about the end of the war in Gaza, and you say that the best thing to happen to Palestinians is the defeat of the terrorists.
Yes.
A lot of people would, maybe in that part of the world, or maybe who have family there.
Already, you know that this is going to be some very profound analysis by two of the greatest thinkers of our time. Tom Swarbrick, I think his name, Swarbrick, and NasDaily. All you need now is Musa Hassan Youssef, son of Hamas, to come in and talk.
Or whatever. Take issue with the description of the word terrorists.
I love that question. Yeah, I absolutely love that question. And this question reminds me of this sort of Western view.
Also, by the way, this kind of thing of he's going to go into a diatribe about the West and how we're all wrong about Palestine, but one of the funny things is this whole view about terrorists is the most tired thing that has offered no solution to the Palestinian problems. And he will sit here and explain why he wants a two-state solution. But over and over again, the problem is that what has blocked the two-state solution is Israel over and over again saying that Palestinians are all evil terrorists.
On the Middle East, which is, you may not see it as somebody sitting in London, but by far the worst thing for a Palestinian is not Israel. It is our fellow countrymen.
This is an amazing statement to start off with, because as much as your fellow countrymen may have killed other Palestinians, simultaneously the comparison of the destruction of Palestinian lives, the mass killing of Palestinians, all of that falls with Israel, and that is the same for many countries in the Middle East where they've been destabilized by Israel. This is just an undeniable thing, but no, actually, yeah, as it turns out, it's all Palestinians' fault.
It's the other Palestinian with an AK-47. Another Palestinian with an AK-47, aka Hamas, is so dangerous for the average Palestinian because...
Really? I'm sure that he's going to give us some very, 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 very cool analysis here.
It becomes almost like a thug society. It's like whoever governs is the one with the weapon, and you can't build a society like that. And
that is literally the basis of Western society, that the government is the one who possesses the legitimate right to use violence.
That's really, unfortunately, the situation in Gaza, before the war, after the war, during the war, even today. So yes, absolutely they're terrorists. And I'm not the one saying this just because I have an Israeli citizenship. People will say that in Saudi Arabia. They are terrorists. The Hamas people are terrorists. The Emiratis will tell you the same thing. Hamas are terrorists.
This is, by the way, the most annoying part of this for me, because people really frame a guy like this as some, intellectual understand, and I fucking hate this, re-Orientalism, where they play on Westerners being so stupid that they know nothing about the Middle East, and that they hear, Emiratis, Saudi Arabia, they're advanced countries, right? They think Hamas are terrorists, so that must mean that actually all Westerners who don't think like that are stupid, when those two regimes are some of the biggest backers of violent terrorists. And also these people who sit here and claim to be advocates for democracy, human rights, and any of this stuff, but then willingly, by their own, just do it on their own, just big up the United Arab Emirates, the people who are destabilizing Sudan, Yemen, who overthrew democracy in Egypt. The idea that there is any legitimacy to these people just because they are Arabs who say, you'll now hear them call Middle East, now hear them call the Palestinians terrorists. Yeah, the only reason they do that is because they want to frame themselves as advanced and civilized to stupid Westerners.
I think it's important that we put enough pressure on the people with guns like Hamas that it's not cool.
To be fair, that is actually a really clever way to defeat racist movements, to go, hey guys, not cool. Don't have guns. That is not cool. And if they were to think about that, then I'm sure that Hamas would be like, yeah, okay, armed struggle. It's not very cool in the eyes of one of the coolest guys ever, NasDaily, who has millions of followers. and Hamas would probably be interested in doing that.
You're not a resistance fighter. You're, by definition, a terrorist because you're instilling fear in people without any rule of law.
And also, it's kind of amazing that he also is like the people with a weapon, but then he realizes he has to say Hamas because obviously Israel, Saudi Arabia, and all these people have weapons and they're obviously not using them for good things. Is this guy wearing trousers? Who, William? Me or them?
Even though the argument would be, I guess, that they're resisting oppression, they're resisting occupation, and this is an expression of the anger that is felt in Gaza.
Yeah, I think that argument works on the Western audience. It's a bullshit argument.
It's amazing. Apparently that argument works on the Western audience. It also seems to work with most other Palestinians who are not, living very highly privileged lives because they don't speak out about what Israel does to them.
I happen to be also Palestinian, come from Palestinian parents for hundreds of years, even before Israel existed. And I can tell you that that's not how resistance looks like. And those people should never govern. They should never be in any position of govern. This is absolutely, with no hesitation, Iranian proxy terrorism.
Iranian proxy terrorism. But clever, just wonderful, wonderful genius. This is also the funny thing about all of these people. Would never ever use the term proxy terrorism in the context of the UAE, a country which he bootlicks. He probably is just, I wonder what his videos about the UAE. Look.
Maybe the best citizenship in the world.
This is what resistance looks like.
And they all have it. The Middle East, called the United Arab Emirates. This is what life is like for citizens from the Emirate of Dubai. And because the city is so generous, they get the craziest benefits I have ever seen. Are you ready for this? When you are born, your parents pay nothing.
What would happen if I was a South Asian coming over here, Mr. NasDaily? But it's just Western audiences who are stupid. Then we have this
guy.
guy.
The coffee billionaire of Thailand. He made $1 billion selling coffee. How?
Hi, my name is Kunzler. Let me tell you my coffee story.
50 years ago,
God, he loves AI.
Prayod went to study in the United States. There, he saw something that was everywhere in the country. Instant coffee.
I saw...
This is so shit! Yo, they are generous to the Nepalese slaves. Yeah.
How do people not see it? That's
Well, I
what
don't know
wonder.
what you see of London and the marches that have existed here for several years now. I personally, we've obviously talked about this on the programme a heck of a lot. I have been shocked by the amount of and the openness of the support for a terrorist organisation by British people in Britain.
Me and you, brother. Me and you.
You too?
Of course I was shocked. I mean, I get the Western idea of it, which is, oh, these poor people, let's support them because they don't know any better. It's almost racist.
These people are so amazing. Genuinely, people like NasDaily, people like Amjad Taha, Alika Labon, the people that they are appealing to, it's just, who is this? Who has actually sat there and is like, yeah, the problem of racism in the context of Israel and Palestine is, I don't know, people in the West apparently engaging in a bigotry of low expectations. What even is this? Because that's just not how people talk about it. People are like, in the context of what's happening in Palestine, Israel's violent militarized oppression against Palestinians leads to militancy. Like, what is this? How does this make for like a good interview on Palestine? But remember, this is why, you don't see Ilan Pape, you don't see any other real academics on here, very Avi Schleim, or you're not seeing them regularly on LBC, because this is a show for people who think that NasDaily is a really clever guy. Although all of the comments on this just say he is paid by Israel.
Protests are almost racist, and you can quote me on this, and you can cancel me on this. It doesn't really matter. Why are they racist? Because they have this soft bigotry of low expectations.
This is literally just the speak of Alika Labon. Like, genuinely, this is a newly crafted narrative coming out of people like UAE propagandists and all of these people. It's just amazing that there are people who actually fall for this. Did he make an AI Karl Marx video?
We do not expect much from the Palestinian. So, yeah, they can kill, they can do whatever they want. They can do October 7th. And
They can kill, they can do whatever they want, they can do October the 7th. Amazing. We don't expect much of them. No, we just expect human decency out of Israel. Like, it's so insane to sit there and say this stuff. Like, all of these American and Western supremacists, it is our countries who went round destroying the world and causing all of these problems. It's not about having low expectations. It's about, understanding what's actually going on in the Middle East.
They're always oppressed, and therefore they can do no wrong. I think that's misguided.
Right, yeah. That's the argument made. Coming in just now, and I hate this guy so much. His AI shit is so garbage. Riverwand, I would suggest you remove that comment. This guy is really a thinker. He's a real tough thinker. He's just told us about the bigotry of low expectations. And yet, of course, this is... I mean, Ethan Klein is addicted to ChatGPT. So maybe that's why he's hearing bigotry of low expectations, because ChatGPT just draws from people like NasDaily as, like, equal sources of talking about Palestine as, an academic. But this kind of idea is so stupid because it's not about a bigotry of low expectations. As a leftist, I want, a left-wing changes in societies. But the unfortunate thing of, the current status quo is that there are many liberationary movements who fight against very oppressive regimes that are not as perfect as I would like. But then I don't live there. I'm not someone who is part of that. Yeah, sure, I think Hamas are most definitely socially regressive and that they've ruled in an authoritarian manner. But I think Hamas exists in the context of Israel's occupation and its treatment of Palestinians for decades. And, the resurgence of, the kind of values that it preached has a lot to do with the fact of, the secular, more liberal Palestinian liberationary movement of the 20th century being marginalized by the total failure of any attempts to make peace. I was reading how Yasser Arafat apparently wanted to make peace in the 1970s with Israel. He was, willing to. He just said, the only thing that I want is for you to tie it to us getting a state. And the Americans wouldn't do it. But now he sits here and tells you that it's actually bigotry of low expectations to try and understand Palestine. It's not like Israel is super progressive on LGBTQ rights. They have all sorts of bigoted and racist laws about marriages. Yeah, gay people can't get married in Israel, although they do recognize gay marriages that come from outside of the country, I believe. But ultimately, as well, if you're a left-wing revolutionary and you want social progress, if you're someone who's interested in LGBTQ plus rights, climate, or whatever you're interested in specifically, I would say that Palestine fits well with all of this because Palestine is a desire for, the people of Palestine to be liberated from a long oppressive colonial regime that is but one head of the snake of Western imperialism and Western power.
And Palestinian, and I'm telling you, we have done something wrong. We cannot pursue terrorism or we cannot pursue this armed resistance as a way to get independence. And there is a world where we need two states for two people that are equally indigenous. That's the future we should build. Not for, we want one state, Palestine, 1948 lands. That's just never going to happen.
It's also amazing because, by the way, anyone I would talk to on this, the trick of people who say this kind of stuff is they'll go, well, it will never happen one state. It will never happen two state. The reason that one state is a big part of the one state being preferable is because, first of all, it's a better, more equitable solution. But second of all, the two state has proven to be impossible because when you try and make peace with the Zionist government, they are not interested in upholding basic international law. Israel could have had a two state by just doing that. And yes, the term equally indigenous is crazy. One is a group of settlers who came over predominantly from Europe up until 1948, and because then they'd run out of European Jewish people because unfortunately many of them were exterminated. Do you know as well, I'd forgotten this. I knew it was a lot, but apparently after 1990, 1 million Jews from the Soviet Union immigrated to Israel. It's crazy to call them both as indigenous.
A lot of people say what's been happening is a genocide.
I think genocide is a very emotional, non-scientific word.
Listen to this. This guy is quality. I would say that what is scientific is AI slop in that it will appeal to people's brains and make you very rich whilst you get to live a comfortable life. You know when he was talking about how he was going to get cancelled? How would you ever get cancelled for these kind of views? You're not going to lose any brand deals. You're already up here, like in terms of your own brand and like life. So towing like the line on Palestine is going to do nothing negative for you. Sure, it'll lose you like a general amount of people supporting you, but there's always going to be people who just don't care and like watching your AI slop. And also brands are going to be fine working with you. Something I find super interesting is the way Israel got so many people to come to Israel is by offering socialist practices like free healthcare, free education, money from the government to move there. I mean, they still do that to this day, but largely the Zionist project, when it first started, had a major problem, which was going to Palestine and building an agrarian society was not actually going to be able to meet the living standards of even people who lived in pretty bad situations in Europe. I think it's called dry crop farming was not a profitable thing. They originally had invited Palestinians to work alongside them. There's a Rothschild, Baron Edmund de Rothschild, who does this. He tries to replicate the plantation model from Algeria in Palestine, and then after a while he's like, this is just a waste of money and time, and so he moves away. And so what the Zionist project realized that they need to do is they need to start banning Palestinians from the labor market, even if they were more effective workers because they were used to the climate and used to the land. They would depress the wages of the Jewish settlers coming in. And so what the Zionist project then ended up doing was obviously buying land through the internet, like through international donations of Jewish people, preventing Palestinians to ever work on that land. And yes, this would basically end up in this situation where where you could give Jewish settlers higher wages. And it was kind of a policy of like, okay, we're just going to look after our own. The problem that really didn't make it very socialist and leftist was that also it was just like, yeah, also fuck all Arabs, basically. The only people that argue the definition of genocide is unscientific or vague are ones that think it's okay to kill in part entire ethnic. Yes, the only thing I would say is the UN definition of genocide is actually quite bad. Like, it doesn't make sense. I've spoken about this before. Like, once again, I will pull this up because there's probably some of you who are new in here. If you look at this, so it's basically, in the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. As such, killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. By the way, this is also one of the most obvious parts that Israel has definitely met and is openly stated by the Israeli politicians who simultaneously say Palestinians do not exist as a people and also believe that they should voluntarily emigrate, as they call it, from the Gaza Strip. And Trump had to stop talking like this because he was making it too clear. He kept going, Gaza's a hellhole, it's a demolition site, who'd ever want to live there? And all of this stuff that was basically just openly enunciating that Israel had created the conditions to destroy people's lives. But anyway, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, this is the one that's the most confusing. Forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Now, the reason I say it's confusing is not because it's not genocide. It is a horrific genocidal action aimed at wiping out people's culture. However, how are these linked? Like, is genocide, what does destroying mean? Like, the actual definition of genocide and the scholarly understanding of it is so much further ahead than this because it looks much more at the cultural elements, whereas this kind of just touches on them a little bit. Like, this is obviously, I'm not disagreeing that any of this is genocide or genocidal. What I am trying to make clear is that these things don't really make sense all being together. And the fact that people are still so focused on killing when that is but one part kind of shows you the failure of this definition and why it is so far behind scholarly definitions of genocide. And it's also crazy because Israel met 4 of these according to the UN.
If you believe what's happening is a genocide, then it's a genocide. I don't really care what you define it as. And if you don't believe it's a genocide, then we don't believe it's a genocide. I remember my first time going to Armenia, and everybody in Armenia said that was Armenian genocide. And then everybody in Turkey said that was not genocide. I think you'll...
This is another amazing part. This guy is gold. This guy is genuinely gold. Everyone in Turkey, the perpetrators of the genocide, whose like kind of national myths are built in part off the extermination of people, and their national heroes are very much like did not give a fuck or care about any of this, Ataturk notably. They said it's not a genocide, so it's not a genocide. Hey, you know what I'm going to say here? I think the feelings of the genocide might be much larger than the case of... the feelings of the victims might be more important than the feelings of the genociders.
See this debate for the next hundreds of years. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But it can be settled, of course. It can be settled by, judges ruling on it in the highest courts in the world.
Yeah, I used to believe that. And then I really dug deep into the United Nations.
And then Israel started paying me to say shit about the United Nations.
And I realized it is the least effective bureaucracy I've ever seen in my life. And there is no way I would trust the United Nations with anything. So I think in the last 2 years, I have lost trust in institutions and governments. My faith is fully in the private sector, you know?
The private sector has been making people's lives so much better for so long.
But it's none in the public sector. And you've done government, you know this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we talk about that a lot as well. The other thing that people, of course, they say about Israel, and again, your experience is very telling in this, is that it is an apartheid state. Did you experience that? You experienced that apartheid growing up in Israel?
Yeah, I think that's bullshit, again.
This guy is going to get cancelled for saying sweary words. He is epic. He is one of the best guys I've ever seen. I love him. He's told me that apartheid is bullshit and he lived in Israel, so... I'm sure that he's going to give us some great explanation as to why it's bullshit.
I'm not trying to here defend Israel. I'll tell you who thinks it's an apartheid state. Let's understand them better. Am I allowed to say the B word, the bullshit?
Yeah, we can.
You can beep
do
it,
business
yeah?
with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I forgot. I forgot. I'm so sorry. I thought we just you and I, not audiences.
No.
If you believe that Israel and Palestine is one country, then in your eyes, I see how you think it's apartheid. Because there's a wall separating
the government of Israel think that it's a one state, Mr. Nuzayah Yusuf. Yeah, Nuzayah Yassin, sorry. The government of Israel think that, so, I feel like maybe that matters.
Palestinians and the Israelis. If you view Israel and Palestine as two countries, then it's not apartheid. It's just a border. Like every country deserves to have a border. I view it as... 2 states for 2 people, and therefore it is not apartheid.
Why would you say this? And also, by the way, in that context, the bigger threat to that is categorically Israel. Just calling it a wall, Israel annexed huge swathes of the West Bank. Some of the refugee camps in the West Bank now have huge walls going through them. I think it's the Ada refugee camp. It's so horrible to sit there and just act this privileged when you grew up, first of all, in Israel, that you have such huge amounts of money, and just go, oh, it's just a wall and a border. And it's like, by the way, anyone who does this is bad. Anyone who tries to claim Israel is not an apartheid state because it just does it in the West Bank and Gaza is insane, because that would cut off the rump of the Palestinians. And apartheid is defined as a crime against humanity. I mean, I don't know what Destiny said, but I'm sure it's genius.
Inside Israel, there is no place I cannot go to as a Palestinian Arab Muslim. I can, theoretically get any job. I have vote that is equal to the prime minister. I can go wherever, do whatever. It is not like South Africa's apartheid. The people who say it's a
Can a Palestinian born in the West Bank or Gaza do that, even though Israel has near total control of their lives? Do Palestinians in power actually say this kind of stuff in your country? Because when you look at it, there are many Palestinian politicians who talk about this. By the way, also, there are many other forms of this where Palestinian communities, for example, are denied basic services by the government. So many of them don't have sewage and trash collection. In fact, that opinionated girl, I think I talked about this, that opinionated girl was in Jerusalem a few days ago, and she was filming a Palestinian village, and she was like, the Palestinians, because she can't open her mouth when she talks, I don't know why. She was like, the Palestinians here, they hate the land because they leave trash. And it's just like, hey, in these communities, Israel denies them basic services. In degrees of apartheid, it's worse.
Is the people who don't believe in 2 states.
It's also crazy that this guy just sits here and doesn't challenge him. I am sorry, this is also why when some people are just like, oh, you should listen to people on the basis of their identity. I don't like that argument because I think it just ends up being here. That's not to say that you should like speak over or like totally erase people's voices, but I would be careful with just like consistently making that argument, because under the lines of that argument, this guy has just an undeniable power and a right to speak about Palestine. And obviously he is not a reputable source.
Cried out during a lot of this for a better understanding of the context, the history, the religious battles that have taken place in that region for the last God knows how many thousands of years. Do you think the expression of...
But the thing about religion as well is the bigger problem is that near total control over the most important religious sites has been given to the state of Israel. They control these sites, and yes, they do actually matter than, I think, sometimes more than we give credit and account for. But like, in the context of Palestine, it's not some 1,000-year-old religious battle.
Israel as an apartheid state, or it being a genocide based on how people feel, is actually an expression of that lack of understanding.
Absolutely. I'm always shocked at how many people, when I tell them I'm Israeli, but I'm Palestinian, Arab, Muslim, they were like, cannot compute. Mm-hmm. It's like, what? I thought it's only Jewish. Like, people need to really dig deeper into this. Like, I studied this for 33 years, my entire existence.
I studied this for 33 years, and what I realized as someone with absolutely no morals or anything was that I could make stacks of money by talking like this in videos and being pro-Israel.
I feel like I am, no, I don't feel, I know I am more qualified than the average Swedish person or the average immigrant in Birmingham. I know this conflict a lot more. And therefore, my opinion should matter more than the average opinion of just another person who happens to be Muslim and who says, Muslim equals I'm with Palestine, I'm against Israel. Mm-hmm. It should not be this simple. We're not tribal.
Do you think that view comes...
Muslim, Christian, and anyone practicing their religions as ostensibly how they're meant to be practiced should just be against Israel because of it being an oppressive and violent state. Definitely a failed actor. I don't know what he's up to. I don't know what this guy is actually up to. I don't know if he's a failed actor. Who knows what he is. I really also wanted to work out, someone was mentioning his shirt. Why does it say 43? Because he's not 43, he's 33. Maybe you just can't count. He was a software developer for Venmo and a mobile payment service. For Venmo. That's what he did. And then he quit his job at Venmo and decided to explore the world making slop.
From somewhere else, that the expression of that form of, one-sidism comes from whether it's forms of extremism that exist in the Middle East that have been brought into the UK.
I don't know enough about what's going on in the UK. I know you guys have a lot of problems. Unfortunately, I'm not following them. I have enough of my own.
Sure.
But I do know that this is not about Israel and Palestine, unfortunately. Yeah. I look at an average person in Bangladesh and I'm like, why do you care? Why should you?
Because it is a grave injustice. And also, by the way, people who say this kind of crap, why do you think people whose recent history has been one of colonization, theft, and marginalization and humiliation at the hands of Western colonial powers may be like, hey, I actually feel a connection with the Palestinians and not the extremist, racist apartheid state, I don't know. I think maybe NasDaily met Destiny. I'm not even joking. I think he met Destiny in Loner Box.
Why does an Hindu Indian care about this conflict? Because for them...
Hindu Indians, right? Like many of them support Israel, which you'd be fine with.
It's actually a religious conflict. It's Hinduism versus Islam. It's Islam versus Judaism. Mm-hmm. It's more of religious lines. The amount of times I get a message that says, you're a Muslim, you're supposed to stand with Muslims. We really need to stand with the truth, not with people of our fellow faith.
Yes, and the truth would be that Israel is a genocidal apartheid state, but, you don't care. Like, Israel in its very existence is exactly what it is. But yeah, I'll play it in a second. But Luna Box and Destiny's trip to Israel, they had the honor of meeting NasDaily. This is a real meeting of minds. You have Epsteiny with NasDaily.
And so I think it's gone to the religious side. And then for the woke left Europeans, it's almost like a feel-good kind of thing. I must always be with the weaker side just because it feels good to support the weaker side. But
I also think as leftists, what we should cling to is hope. Like, I think that we should. And I don't think that that should just be blind hope, that we should, celebrate everything that, say, Zoran Mamdani does and never accept criticism about him. And I don't think that that should blind us to the fact of, like, Graham Plattner just being an absolute monster. I think that that is foolish and that people do need to think about what they're doing there. But, like, in the context of Palestine, it is so important to side with the Palestinians on the basis of the hope that a better world can be created. Because what Israel is doing right now, what you are kind of just poo-pooing away, is barbaric violence that was not okay when South Africa was doing something that did not get this extreme in terms of especially not inside South Africa. They were mostly doing it in other places. But, like, also, just dismissing, I was talking a bit to Isaac about this, and the new season of Blowback is really good. I remember when Ethan and Lonerbox were, like, really dismissing the militant aspect of the struggle against apartheid. If Fidel Castro had not made the decision to send over, like, advanced equipment that could outmatch South Africa, then they probably would have just been able to continue apartheid for a considerably longer amount of time, But Fidel Castro made a very major decision, and yet he's vilified. In the same way that today, Vietnamese are vilified as monsters, when the Vietnamese are the people who kicked the Khmer Rouge out of power. Those people who we are told are evil communists, the Khmer Rouge, were not kicked out of power by the Americans. Over and over again, they were treated as, like, anti-communist heroes by the Americans.
Unfortunately, and I tell you this as my family is one of the weaker side, we have to do our own reforms to be able to thrive. Palestine there's two Palestines now. Do you know this? Okay,
well,
the average person doesn't know this.
Yeah.
There's two Palestines.
Yeah.
Which Palestine do you support, the West Bank or the Gaza? Because it's two different governments. Yeah. They also kill each other.
Yeah.
But the average person in the UK does not know this.
God, this guy, this is slop. They were also talking about, I knew that South Africa and Israel had tested and worked to develop nuclear arms together, but I did not know that the plan had been to use them against the Cubans in Angola, because they were eventually beating the shit out of the South Africans. Oh no, we are losing. Oh no, we South Africans are not conquering anymore. We will have to get rid of our apartheid regime. Oh no. And also, by the way, in the context of South Africa, like, one of the most important things with South Africa is that we need to go harder than they did in South Africa and ensure that the changes that occur in Palestine are irreversible and that they actually address the ills of people. Because in South Africa, a kind of apartheid remains where, yes, there's like a black middle class that's emerged, but still tens of thousands of black people are being killed. Not but obviously by the apartheid government, but by hangovers of apartheid and, like, the situation that they're in. Have you read Hassan Kanafani? I've listened to interviews, and I've read the one about the revolution 36 to 39 and some of his other stuff that's, like, freely available in that online. It's very good. But yeah, the South Africans, this guy is just an idiot. Do you know there are two Palestines? I actually think it is most of the people who support Israel unequivocally don't know that there are two Palestines, so to speak. But there are not two Palestines. There is one incredibly collaborationist government, and then there are Hamas, who are, the rulers of the West Bank. Both are authoritarians in the sense of, like, the PA just refused to hold elections, in part because Israel is incredibly happy with Mahmoud Abbas because he's an idiot and a supporter of Israel. I mean, it's almost like when we had the lady the other day when she was talking about how the black diaspora from Rwanda.
I think you've spoken before about extremism, particularly around the Muslim Brotherhood, and the potential that kind of, and you talked about Iranian-backed extremism, that has been brought into the United Kingdom.
Absolutely.
That it doesn't wash in other.
I wonder when he started talking about the Muslim Brotherhood.
Like in Arab countries, it has no place. They're a designated terror group in some of these countries.
Oh, I hate these people so much. I hate these people. I hate that this guy has a right to go on television and speak like this. I hate that he's actually on the radio, but I hate that this guy thinks that he is some kind of intellect, and I hate that this guy is viewed as someone who is normal. The Muslim Brotherhood are banned in dictatorial countries, not because they are extremist terrorists, as these people make out, out. It is a lie that is literally used by these dictatorships so that they can repress their population. The UAE, you can read Courtney Freer is the person who writes about this best, I think. Courtney Freer, when she talks about this, Courtney Freer is like, yeah, the UAE basically didn't even really have a Muslim Brotherhood. They just used it to crack down on activists. These people who sit there and they're like, yes, the pro-Palestine left are actually pro-jihad, and they don't understand the extremism. And then it's like, neither of you two people have even a basic understanding of the Middle East. This guy is an Emirati shill. This guy is literally a moron. He is someone who thinks that it is okay to, kind of just talk shit about Palestine and give his really amazing insights into it, whilst also simultaneously licking the boots of the UAE. Like, the UAE supports brutal, murderous dictators because they can, Like, I am perplexed that this is still regarded as, like, a decent guy to listen to by so many. No, it's not just Trump as well. It's Nigel Farage. All of these people are UAE slop lovers. They all eat up the Emirati slop and they go, yeah, actually, the Arab countries designate the Muslim Brotherhood terrorists. Bro, why do you think that someone like Abdel Fattah el-Sisi or the fucking monarchs over in the Gulf, the Bani Fatma, the fucking guy who has no problem with mass murdering all over the region is like, yeah, actually, they have a really good understanding of extremism. You guys all shed your little tears over Sudan and use it as a means to attack leftists when you don't even have the most basic conception of anything happening in the entire Middle East. Neither of these people would ever dare to talk about the Emirati counter-revolution, and that's what would get this idiot cancelled. Not talking about Israel and going, yummy, yummy, Israel slop for everyone.
So not here.
British people, UK people, you are getting some of the most dangerous immigrants in the world. Not all immigrants, but you're getting some of the most dangerous people.
Dangerous how?
Because they're coming in the UK, setting it as a base to create essentially media to destabilize the Middle East. Right? It's dangerous because of the ideas being promoted. Here they can thrive because you have democracy and freedom of speech. That's great. But these ideas cannot thrive in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, in some of these stable countries. And so you're getting the most...
They are dictatorships. They are brutal, bloody dictatorships who kill their own people. Oh my God, you sit here and talk shit about Hamas. You do not care about anything. These people are the biggest joke going. And also, by the way, this literally sounds like Emirati line. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Let's just compare what he's saying to this. This is an Emirati government official. I think it's Abdullah bin Zayed.
And let me say this in English so you can understand what I'm saying.
I love this statement as well. I love this statement. And the reason I am so enamored and interested by this comment is because he goes, let me tell you in English. And they have translators there. So he knows that it doesn't matter if he talks in Arabic. They'll understand it. But he's like, I am Arab. I have to make clear to you that it's okay to kill everyone. Like, this guy is sat here telling you why it is okay to be brutal, bloody dictatorships.
I have translation.
No, I know you have translation, but I just want to make sure you get it right. There will come a day that we will see far more radical extremists and terrorists coming out of Europe because of the lack of decision-making, trying to be politically correct, or assuming that they know the Middle East and they know Islam and they know the others far better than we do. And I'm sorry, but that's pure ignorance.
That's it. Listen to how he talks. And by the way, there's a really good paper about this called Golden Boys, Bros and Barbecues, Gendered Occidentalism and the Shaping of US Policy in the Middle East. It's about Yusuf Al-Otaiba, who is the UAE's ambassador to Washington. And it's about how he talks with a smattering of Arabic in traditional dress. And so he's viewed as like a really legitimate, awesome guy that's like, someone who's kind of like a lad, but also knows and understands the Middle East. NasDaily, you're all saying paid by Israel. To me, his rhetoric is genuinely almost the exact same as the Emirati guy. Conclusion, freedom of speech is good, but you should only be allowed to live in a country with free speech if you agree with the regime because ideas are dangerous. Exactly. That's what these countries believe. Someone explained it to me like this, that you should be allowed to have personal freedom to kind of do whatever you want in your life. But then, aside from that, you're not allowed to do anything in public life. You're not allowed to do any activism. And by the way, these are the same people who moan over fucking China and how authoritarian it is. But yeah, it's the same thing, Chris. They really go hand in hand. To an extent, yes, they definitely do go hand in hand, and both propagandas profit off each other. But what I will say that is kind of interesting about Emirati propaganda is it's much more focused on the Muslim Brotherhood. You will hear a lot of pro-Israel shills talk about it, but they need to focus on the Muslim Brotherhood specifically because they can't focus on Islam generally, because the UAE still maintains some kind of Islam. Can you repeat the name of the book? I'll just link it. It's not a book, it's a paper that you should be able to get. It's quite easy to read, it's very short. My friend sent it to me. But yeah, he sounds exactly like an Emirati official. But, you know, great guy to have on your podcast.
The biggest destabilizing forces to live in the UK and try to destabilize them.
And the ideas are what? Sharia?
Well, the ideas are like, first of all, like Israel and Palestine, okay? There should be no peace with Israelis. There should be one state. We should continue the fight, continue the resistance. What resistance? 80% to 90% of the Palestinians just want to live in peace. Sure. And they do not mind having an Israeli state next to them. The
problem with that is that Israel doesn't want that. There is, by the way, every time, how do you frame an argument where Israel got 78% of the land and Palestinians wanted 22% and they weren't allowed it? Like, it's insane.
Us were suffering while somebody's sitting in London or Qatar and telling us that you must continue the resistance. What if we just want to live in peace? So this is one of the ideas that affects me deeply.
Right, it's really going well in the West Bank, right, isn't it? It's really going well in the West Bank, where they have a full-on collaborationist, structure over there, who do basically Israel's bidding, where they crack down on protesters, people throwing stones for Israel, by the way. They share security information. That's going well for making peace in the Middle East, isn't it? It's definitely not a problem that there are a vast amount of Jewish extremists within Israel who have power in the government that genuinely believe that God gave them the right to all of Palestine, and that if they don't settle Palestinian land, they are going against God's will. No, but the problem is the Muslim Brotherhood. Thanks, Mr. Daly.
Deeply, and you have many other ideas by God knows how many.
And we've let that happen. UK's
let it happen under the guise of freedom of speech, which is great. Freedom of speech is great. Here's the way I think. I think democracy works. It's amazing. We love democracy. I mean, Israel has democracy too.
We love democracy, but here's my Emirati talking points. Yay!
It works unless there is a force that is more powerful than democracy. What is more powerful than democracy and rule of law? Religion. Mm-hmm. So if your religion is more important to you than rule of law and democracy, which is the case for many of the Muslim Brotherhood people, then that is dangerous. And you notice
But that is literally the opposite of what Morsi said in Egypt. Morsi literally resigned from the Muslim Brotherhood to become... And by the way, I would highly recommend that if you're actually interested in democracy and Islam, there's a great chapter which is really late in the book of Carlo Invenizia Chetti's book, which is What is Christian Democracy? The Catholic Church was a far stronger body that may have actually had the ability to stand up to modernization and democracy. Islam cannot do that. It is not a centralized body. It just does not possess the same abilities.
Every time we introduce democracy in the Middle East, the first person to win is Muslim Brotherhood or an Islamic extremist person.
What is wrong with the Muslim Brotherhood winning? I would love to hear your explanation. Not everyone wants that, but they won free and fair elections. They did not just go into authoritarianism. They didn't. But these people tell you, like, just straight up, oh, no, that's the problem. I think if the West wanted to do something that would have objectively been better for the Middle East, if we cared about democracy, we would have helped the Muslim Brotherhood flourish.
It happened in Gaza. It happened in Egypt. If you allow it, it'll happen in Lebanon. If you allow it, it'll happen in the West Bank. So we have to be...
So what? They can't have elections? No. This is Emirati government talking points. This guy is literally just like an Emirati government shill. Like, it's actually amazing. Great to hear from Emirat. Great to hear the opinions of the ruling class of the Emirates. This message is approved. This NasDaily message is approved by Mohammed bin Zayed.
Be careful when we say democracy is great, but democracy is great when you believe that is the number one most important thing before religion.
They tore down a dictator who oppressed them for so many years. And then the country that you bootlick, that you love, literally engaged in an authoritarian coup there. It is unbelievable that people treat this guy, that just because he is a Palestinian, he is somehow like a reputable-ish source on Palestine. It is truly amazing. Let's listen to his meeting with Destiny.
Exactly you sound like.
Okay.
Because I listened to you for 4 hours.
Oh, geez, on which thing? Oh, yeah, okay, God, yeah.
I listened to that guy, Norman Finkelstein, who's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a painful conversation.
That was really painful.
Yeah, that guy's insane. Yeah.
That guy kept like personal attacks.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
impressive you never personally attacked at all.
Thanks, yeah. That's a very deep question, okay? It's a long
Really?
story, yeah. Without getting too deep into it, it's just really funny. When I started getting into online politics, like 2016, 2018, I have like a gaming background, pro gaming, so I was like a really brutal, like, fuck you, you're a dumb fuck, blah, blah,
yeah.
blah. But then over the years, like, I try to like tone it back a lot because I feel like it probably looks bad.
Thank you, alleged sex offender N-word man.
And it's hard to like convince people to listen to if you're screaming at them. But yeah, now my fan base complains a lot when I go into these conversations because I'll have people like Finkelstein. Like if it would have been like 5 years ago and Finkelstein starts screaming at me, well, I'm gonna start screaming at him like you're a fucking
And you
idiot.
didn't?
Blah, blah, blah. No, yeah. So I just kind of chill. And then the idea is I hope.
To be fair, like during that debate, he did look so out of his depth in comparison to Maureen Rabbani and Finkelstein, and obviously Benny Morris as well.
That like this is supposed to be like the best scholar and he's just screaming at me for 4 hours, so I hope you see it's like a fucking joke. That's like the goal. So
And it
yeah.
really worked.
I hope so, yeah.
It worked on me. I'm a viewer, and I was like, wow, this guy just sat there, just personal attacks, and he thinks he knows everything. He talks like a freaking turtle, one word at a minute, and whatever he says has no value. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
It's not the Emirati government line. Like, genuinely, NasDaily, you guys be thinking that he's an Israel, that he's like an Israel guy. This is Emirati shill master number 2. And also, why does he keep changing his shirt? What is with the 42% life thing?
You can put this on the internet.
Yeah.
I have never seen anybody so gung-ho and like the one word that you used in your book 50 years ago. And why did you say that one? Like, why is that an argument?
Yeah.
Sorry, why am I getting angry? And
No,
this
it's
is-
frustrating and it's true because like because all these guys will always argue like, oh, you don't know the context, you don't know the nuance, you don't know whatever.
Give me a
And it's like,
break.
but this guy's literally like one sentence, and he's asking the guy who wrote it. He's trying to tell him what he meant. He's like, bro, like we don't have to think about the story. Like this is the author. Like he wrote this. You
Yes.
don't have to like guess what he meant. Like yeah, it's wild. It's so stupid.
Even
yeah.
Lex, I think, was like, yo, like, let's just move on. This is stupid.
Yeah, it was dumb. Yeah.
All right, I want my girlfriend to come. Asia, come to the front of the house. I want you to meet Destiny.
No, NasDaily, no! Don't bring your girlfriend near Destiny. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right there.
I don't
Sounds really
fanboy this
ominous.
much. I'm not fanboying over Destiny. It's so weird.
You're probably on the other side.
But that's the power. Yeah, that's the power of the
Lonerbox didn't even get the chance to meet him. That is actually so sad.
podcast. It's like when you really listen to a podcast for 4 hours.
I feel like you really know something.
I'll do audio podcast. How about that? Audio only. This is my girlfriend. Have you met her? Have you met her? We put him in the corner, so.
No. It could be an IOF situation. I don't know. We'll have to or maybe it's an Emirati situation. But keep her away from Destiny, mate. No, his t-shirt is different. In this one, he's wearing the 43% life t-shirt. In that one, he's wearing the 42%. I don't know why. I'm not really sure. Someone will have to tell me one day.